I'm Adam Mock, a former... Oh, damn
Are
it.
you a former theater major?
You got me all screwed up because I don't like the camera.
Don't think about it.
I'm
It's not-
nervous.
Welcome. Welcome to the video version of Made You Watch a Podcast.
Don't worry.
Ironically,
We'll
making
get
you
through
watch,
it.
And Adam's having a rough
Yeah.
time.
I'm Adam Mock, a 40-something-year-old film critic, and we're about to watch Tom Hanks when he used to be funny.
I'm Melanie Weir, a 26-year-old former theater major, and I think I'm dating this version of Tom Hanks.
And we're about to make you watch...
A podcast.
Welcome back to Made You Watch a Podcast.
We've been doing a lot of 1986 recently.
It's a good year for film.
It's
a great year for film.
Whatever was going on in 86, isn't that also the year Running Up That Hill came out? Which everybody's in love with right now?
I don't know.
And it's the year Top Gun came out. There was a little running joke for a while that we were just reliving 86. I think we still are. I think that's what we're doing.
Oh, here we go. So, we're going to let you hear the trailer. We're going to go watch the movie, and we'll be right back. Okay, we are back. And Mel, what did you think of The Money Pit?
I loved this movie.
Isn't it charming as hell?
It ran like just one very long sitcom that never ended. All the characters were so delightfully weird. It reminded me so much of Mr. Mom.
Oh, yeah. It has just the strangest cast of characters. It had Maureen Stapleton, who plays Estelle, the woman who sells the house.
Oh my god, she was wild.
She was hilarious.
She was the first one. I was like, oh, this is just a running cabal of weird people, huh?
And then you had Carl from Die Hard. If you ever saw Die Hard?
Oh, I love Die Hard.
Alexander Godunov played the ex-husband, the maestro.
Oh my god, I knew he looked familiar.
He's the big guy who's
He's
like,
the-
I'm going to kill you, I'm going to cook you, and I'm going to eat you. And he kills his brother, and it just says, ho, 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 now I have a machine gun.
Yes!
Yeah.
And he, like, kind of cries a little bit like a little bitch on camera. I hated this guy.
He was great in this, though, because he really got to actually, like, be a character for once. He wasn't just a German stereotype.
I hated him. I was a German stereotype. He was a composer stereotype.
He was excellent at it, though.
He
with that
drove me
wispy hair.
insane. I was like, is every composer like this? We used to like have a meme about our composer in the composition teacher in college was very, very dramatic, and
Yeah.
I always heard like secondhand drama because all my friends were in the orchestra and instrumentals and stuff about like what was going on in his personal life, and he was absolutely just wild, the things this man did. And every Facebook profile picture was just him dramatically flipping his hair. He was such a guy.
I miss those days.
I cannot imagine being his contemporary. It would have been like this. It would have been just like this, which is insane.
She was married to this poor bastard. Shelley Long's ex-husband.
I cannot imagine how or why anybody would marry this insane, obnoxious, self-centered man.
Well,
maybe he was less obvious. He does have a little bit of charm to him. He's very passionate. And men who are passionate tend to be very charming. But don't fall for it, honey.
No. So, what I found so funny about this in the beginning was I did not remember the intro and the ending to this film.
I was very confused. I was like, I thought this was Tom Hanks. Who is this guy?
You basically find out that Tom Hanks' dad has skipped the country, screwed over their lawyer business. I didn't know if he was an agent or later on he says, I'm a lawyer.
Yeah.
And he works for a bunch of rock stars who are just complete screw-ups.
And drag queens?
What was their band going to be called? They want to be the Barbra Streisand's?
Yeah, or no, Meryl Streep.
Meryl Streep. They were funny, though.
I loved them.
These big fat guys in house coats.
Fantastic. I was like, all right, drag queens, trans women, very early. I don't know what it is, but thank you for the positivity.
So he finds out his dad screwed him over, skipped to Brazil, and is getting married to this woman who's like a quarter his age.
This is a common theme with Tom Hanks characters having a dad that's like that.
What other movies?
You've Got Mail.
Oh, yeah. Did I see You Got Mail? No, I did. I watched it during COVID because I was bored. Didn't help.
I was about to get really excited. I love You Got Mail. It's just one of those Pride and Prejudice spinoffs.
I haven't seen Sleepless in Seattle.
Oh, that one's okay. That's
But
one
I've
of my
seen-
mom's favorites.
Yeah, I can see that.
I'm not a huge fan, but it's cute.
Yeah. So he's kind of just, and they keep doing close-ups. You never meet the characters right away. It's like he's looking at the bills, and they all say past due.
And it's voiceovers.
Or even when Josh Mostel, who plays Jack, his real estate agent, You just see a donut constantly dripping on pages while he's going through the different listings.
It's funny. It's like they're trying to tease the characters. Like, you know who it's going to be, but they're like, isn't it? It's like now with Marvel movies, how they wait for you to applaud when a certain character comes on screen.
So Shelley Long and Tom Hanks are laying in this gorgeous mansion in bed, and all of a sudden, Yakov Smirnoff, 80s comedian Yakov Smirnoff, busts in. Hey, you have to move out. The maestro going to be home soon.
I was like, what the hell is going on?
It throws you right into this movie. Even down to getting the house happens pretty quick.
Yeah, it's like you can't just find an apartment that fast in New York City. I felt their pain. I did.
Oh, yeah. So he's like desperate. He's got no money because his dad screwed him so hard. And I love the one band. It's 3 brothers and a sister, and their manager is also the brother. He goes, keep the money. It's fine. They got plenty. They don't even know. They're used to getting screwed. So he has a little bit of cash.
They don't expect you to pay them back.
And then he has to. And then so they go and look at this house that evidently has been on the market for a while. It's got good bones, they're saying, and things like that. And it's a gorgeous mansion that is dilapidated.
It's very pretty. It's just like the whole movie and it just like. I was like, how can these people be so stupid? And then I remember that the internet didn't exist.
Yeah.
And
you had to go through people back then.
You had to trust people more, and like that was bad because clearly you could get scammed, and like sometimes situations like this happen where somebody has to sell a house really fast, but you have more verification nowadays, and these people just had to like kind of take a gut feeling and jump on it. So it's like they're not actually as stupid, and also like you would have less awareness even that scams like this happen.
And it's $1 million home he's getting for $200,000.
I mean, like, the too good to be true alarms would be going off like crazy in my head. The whole movie is actually, I used to work for a real estate agent. I used to, like, run her blog for her, and the whole thing just feels like a lesson in always get an inspection, always get an inspection, always get an inspection.
Well, they don't, and they go and meet Estelle, who is telling them that her ex-husband, I think, had to skip the country and leave for Brazil because it turns out he used to be Hitler's pool boy.
Yeah!
It's a Boys from Brazil reference where a lot of Nazis hid out in Brazil under assumed names.
When we were on TV Travis's other podcast, you haven't seen.
Wait, you haven't seen that?
On Sunday. Shout out to TV's Travis. Also go check that out if you haven't seen it.
Yeah, you haven't seen that is fun.
Pretty in Pink. No, what were we just talking about? I forgot where the train of thought was going. That was ADHD danger, that sentence.
Talking about the house, and then we were talking about Estelle, and then, I don't know.
Oh, he said he wanted me to record my reactions to this movie because he was like, there's one thing, and you'll know it when you see it. I recorded my reactions to so many things because I expected them to be the one thing until the one thing actually happened, and this was the first one.
That was the first one. The one I'm talking about is the bathtub.
Yes, we'll get there.
Holy God, it's the best scene in this movie next to the rug.
As soon as the raccoon started happening, I knew it was time.
I mean, this movie's got very, like, that oddball 80s aesthetic, kind of like the way, like Weird Science. It's just weird for the sake of being weird, even though it's a very normal concept. It's 2 people buying a shitty house that they need to rebuild, but every aspect of it just goes to hell.
You know what it is?
Overnight.
It's the concept that bridged the gap between the kind of slapstick home comedy that was from the Dick Van Dyke Show into the more modern situational comedy that like now shows like The Office have perfected.
Yeah.
It's the middle ground between like, oh, look at this crazy thing that's happening to like the dead inside, how many more crazy things can happen.
So they borrow $200,000 from a kid. It's one of his clients who I guess is like this kind of like famous singer kid, and he's a real dirtbag. His mother is his maid, and he's got like this crazy henchman who like frisks a Tom Hanks.
That's the second thing that I responded to because what the shit was going on in that house? His mother,
he had a girl upstairs in the jacuzzi.
His mother was his maid?
Yeah, this kid is like 12.
Weirdly kinky.
Yeah. And she's all into it. She's like, he puts a cigarette out on the carpet, and his mother goes to clean it up, and he looks at his manager and goes, "Hey, you gonna make my mother clean that rug?
You gonna make your wife clean that up?" And then
was that the husband?
Yes.
Oh, I didn't get that.
Oh, it was literally.
I missed that.
There's an episode of Parks and Rec where Bo Burnham is on, and he plays like a jackass country singer, and his dad like brings him like Lunchables, and he's like, "Turkey, you dick! I wanted ham!" And he throws him across the room, and he's like, "Maybe mom would be a better manager than you, huh?" And I'm like, "Oh, holy shit! I wonder if Bo Burnham's seen this movie. He probably has."
So he's this little like Guido kid. He's got like that kind of mop hair and a gold chain. He's just wearing a robe and slippers.
Yep.
And Tom Hanks is like, "Give me the money." He's like,
"Or what?
I saved you a bunch of money last year. How dare you?" He's like, "Or what?" He goes, "Or I won't be friends with you anymore."
And the kid's just like,
"Okay." His face.
It's like, oh, Tom Hanks is his real friend. It's a little preview of like Big.
Yeah. No, that I forgot that line. That was so cute. That little kid's just like,
I won't like you anymore. Okay.
So he gives them the $200,000. They buy the house, but the problem, and they also get a pretty cool car along with it.
Yeah, I mean, it's dying, but it is a very cool car.
Yeah, it looks like something from like an old like Gatsby bit or something. So they move in, and the house is just a shithole. I mean, they run the water, it comes out like sludge.
And he's like making a big deal out of it. She was like, "It has legs," and I was like, "I'm with you, honey." That reminded me of the, I don't know if Ghostbusters probably had not come out yet, but that was the pink slime from Ghostbusters 2. As a child, the very concept terrified me. I once had a dream. I just realized that's definitely where that nightmare came from. The most traumatic nightmare of my childhood was when the water came out of the sink and started swirling around my body like it was a snake and it was going to eat me.
Man, lay off the pipe.
I was 4 when that happened.
So, they decide to hire Joe Mantegna, who plays Art Shirk.
Yes.
I think is his name.
The Shirk brothers.
He's a carpenter. His brother's a plumber, which are very hard to find nowadays. And I like your wife. She's nice wool. Is one of my favorite lines where he's hitting on Shelley Long, and he goes, "I'm sorry, I didn't know you were with her. She seems like nice wool."
It was...
It's the most misogynistic thing I've ever heard, and it's great.
This movie has a couple of moments that it loses points for, legitimately, where it just treats legitimate, scary acts of sexual harassment of women as, like, little things.
But at the same time,
takes it seriously.
The way they played it off was adorable between Tom Hanks and Shelley Long. Because
they were cute.
He goes, "Hon, do you know how hard it is to get a carpenter as good as him around here? You can't." And she goes, "I'm going to have to do some stuff to get this happening." He goes, You just might. And she's like, "Okay, sweetie." And she just kisses him, and it's like, they understand. They just have to deal with this scumbag for
the couple
2
are
weeks.
very Jim and Pam.
Yeah. And they played off each other so well.
Tom Hanks has great chemistry.
Walter Fielding and Anna Crowley with their names.
Loved them.
And they keep saying husband and wife, but they're not married till the end of the movie.
He keeps doing the whole thing where he's like, "That's my wife!" And even now, we weren't even married yet, I just said it.
We don't need a piece of paper to prove that we're in love.
It's her. She's traumatized because she married this composer guy for unknown reasons, and he's like, "Baby, it was one bad mistake."
Yeah, and she felt way more broken than him at certain parts of this, because she's still getting, because like towards the end, Shelley Long is a little screwed in the head, like where she ends up with like thinking she banged her ex and everything.
We'll get there. I have a rant.
Okay. So they hire him. He's going to come by and, you'll be done in 2 weeks. 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
And every time him or his brother show up, they're blasting "I Gotta Be Me" from their car. They're like super Italians. Then his brother shows up. I don't know. I forget what his name was. I don't know if I have it up here. But, Brad. Carmine Carildi. I don't know the guy. But whatever. He shows up, walks into the house for 10 seconds.
He walks back out.
Drinking a scotch, leaves, drinks another scotch, gets in his car, says that'll be $5,000. You didn't even look at the place. I didn't have to. I looked at it 2 years ago. Trust me, nothing changed.
He's leaving because he's insulted, because he's like, "Oh, you don't even have the money to offer me the good scotch." And he's like, "This is the good scotch.
Johnny Walker Red. It's okay. It's not great.
He's a child, sir."
He is kind of a kid.
He bought this house.
So the first night, like everything that can go wrong is going wrong. I mean, they're finding a raccoon in the dumbwaiter.
That
was a great shot of her.
So funny.
That raccoon was like legit, like going after Shelley Long. I think that they may have used a real raccoon for parts of that.
For parts. I mean, I saw the real raccoon. It was definitely parts.
Tom Hanks goes booking up these beautiful kind of curved stairs, and they just drop out from under him.
Like a cartoon.
And he is hanging on for dear life. She comes running out, stops at the ledge, whoa, and is standing on
You're standing on my hands.
She gets off, and he does this move where he goes, grabs his other hand, and then just drops. And if that didn't break your back, I don't know what would.
He landed spread eagle, which actually, if you're falling from a very, very large height, they say you should do because it distributes the force of the impact evenly across your entire body, and you're less likely to shatter your bones.
Yeah, but he had like a piece of staircase like this going into his spine.
No,
so,
like his neck should have probably been broken. It was good that he was fine.
So
that staircase is, I have to mention, what an exercise in practical effects.
That stunt was awesome.
That was amazing.
Yeah.
That was Buster Keaton-esque.
And there's another one later on with the scaffolding.
Yeah.
With the when he falls into the paste and the scaffolding.
That stunt guy, if it wasn't Tom Hanks, which I doubt.
No, it wasn't. He had a stuntman.
That stuntman.
He had it looked like a Rube Goldberg device.
Yes!
It was just like dum dum dum, and then he falls, and then the next one falls,
That
and then he
was literally
slides
exactly what I
down,
was
and then he
thinking.
slides down again, he slides down again, and then he lands, and then he goes into a bucket, down a hill, into a fountain, and I love the fountain. We got to get into the fountain. They don't have water, so they only running water is this fountain of like a little cherub pissing.
And that's how they have to get all of their water. And then when he lands in the fountain, the cherub starts peeing on him.
And he's patting the thing on the ass like, having a little prostate trouble, bud?
Squeeze, pal.
Squeeze. So
and just on the wood.
They decide they're gonna take a bath, but they have to get all this water upstairs, and all they have is an extension ladder. Why they're doing it this way, I have no idea. Just send a rope down, haul it up. They're climbing up the ladder at the same time.
With the buckets.
They get up there, and they pour the water in, and the thing goes straight through the floor. The whole, this like gorgeous 4-clawed tub just crushes on the floor downstairs.
Shatters.
And Tom Hanks
loses it.
This is the first thing I was like, if you don't laugh at this, nothing's funny to you. When he's just... and he's choking for like 2 minutes straight.
It's Tom Hanks doing Jim Carrey, who when I was a child were my two favorite actors.
Oh, he was amazing in that shot. And Shelley Long's just staring at him like, what is wrong with you? He's like,
it reminds me of Woody in Sid's house.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, it's just so many previews of great Tom Hanks to come. Just a man truly lost, unhinged,
and he has
on
that,
the edge.
Great delivery. He's just like, everything's a big deal, and he just loses it. And I'm just like, God damn, I miss seeing this side of Hanks.
Yeah.
He doesn't do I mean, I understand. You get older, you want your Oscars.
He's in his very serious acting. He's a very intelligent, wise man with a lot of good things to say about kindness and the state of the world. But,
he is...
Baby Hanks.
Yeah, Baby Hanks rules. So, the construction workers show up. This guy, Curly... And he is bringing a biker gang with him.
Is this town run by a mafia of mixed Italian and leather daddies?
I think they've pulled this scam a few times. And,
obviously.
And so and did you know who one of those leather daddies was? The big Italian dude who was spraying the room blue. He goes, I don't want the room blue.
Oh, he looked really familiar.
That's Jake Steinfeld, who's Haley Steinfeld's uncle.
Oh!
He used to be a gym rat who started a program called Body by Jake. And I think he had a sitcom for a little while that was really cute. He was just like a fun little actor, like a one-off guy.
That sounds familiar.
Yeah, but I was like, oh, that's little Hawkeye's kid, niece. So all these maniacs are just ripping the house apart with axes and bulldozers.
Enthusiastically.
And they leave for the day. They come back, and the place they keep saying the line. It looked like they tested missiles on the house. Because it's just full of holes. They're now sleeping, and there's just wind coming in. They're like, have to put the mattress on the floor because Shelley Long fell through the bed.
I have to talk about this.
What's that?
Because this has literally happened to me.
Go for it, man.
Jesus. Okay, our whole thing is stupid. We were leaving college. We got like low key screwed over, like not on purpose, just like you know how college housing can be. The house he was living in broke up. I was graduating a year before him. He still needed a place to live. Our friend Jordan still needed a place to live, and so we were like, okay, fine. Like none of us have a place to live. Let's get an apartment together, which my parents just loved.
Oh, sure.
We had been dating for like 8 months.
Uh-oh.
So we did, and we had to look for a place, and we eventually found one with our other friend Noelle, who still lives with me, and Sam. But it was getting into the place was a nightmare because they scheduled, among other things, they scheduled the floor waxing people to come on July 4th. And so when we were scheduled to move in 2 days hence, we couldn't because they didn't come on July the 4th because it was a holiday, and I don't know why they told us that was happening. So then they were like, they can't come, they don't have room for another appointment for 2 weeks. And we were like, okay, you have to give us a place to live. Because now we have jobs in New York, and my family lives in Pennsylvania, and this is not going to work. You owe us housing. So they gave us housing.
Uh-oh.
First of all, Will and I had to spend 2 days trekking through different Airbnbs in Brooklyn because there was a weekend overlap where we had nowhere to go. No, not a weekend. There was a 2-day overlap, a Thursday and a Friday, before we could, like, go home to my place for a concert, my parents' place for a concert that we were going to anyway, where we just had nowhere to stay and we had to go do our jobs. So you can't rent Airbnbs in Brooklyn, like, 3 days in advance. They're all gone. Yeah. So what we had to do was stay in 2 different ones in 2 different parts of Brooklyn, ironically very close to where I live now, but I didn't know that at the time. And it was a nightmare, and we were trekking our stuff all over New York in the middle of July, and it was incredibly hot that summer and really humid, and we were dying. And then when we finally moved into this new place, we had just gotten back from, I think I was at the beach over the 4th of July, and I had gotten incredibly sunburnt on the last day there. So I was really sunburnt, and we get there, and this is the apartment that they're letting us stay in is not a finished apartment. They're doing construction on it. And so what we're living in is an apartment that smells like sawdust and old people, with very little working AC. When the AC does work, it intensifies the smell, because I think an old person is just living in there very tiny, like. I don't know. Yeah. No, like in the AC unit.
Oh, God.
I don't know. Or they spilled perfume in there. I don't know what the hell was going on. There were no working showers. One shower was just a pipe with no shower head that sprayed water. With no curtain, and the other one was a standing shower with no doors and wood splinters all over the floor. So we had to use the pipe with no curtain and just hold up a towel for each other so that we didn't get enough water on the floor to soak through to the apartment below us while we took a shower, which we had to do because it was like 89 degrees. And so we're living through that, and we go sink into the bed, and we find out that this well-made looking bed is an air mattress on an iron frame. So I am sunburnt, barely showered, covered in aloe lotion, lying on a bed that is sinking into an iron frame. And we had just come from all of that. And then when we did eventually get to move into our next apartment, we didn't have any of our furniture. So we still had to sleep on a mattress on the floor with our brand new air conditioner just spitting water on us. And I was so miserable.
Well, at least you had that.
And we had each other, and we didn't kill each other, and we're still together, which is very nice.
So you can relate to this movie.
Whole movie reminded me of that. Also, reminded me, Tom Hanks's character is Will. Like, yeah. I could hear Will saying half of his lines.
But would he lose it the way he does? Like, just that insane, just, oh my God, why is this happening? But then, like, laugh the next second because it's so ridiculous.
If he was done enough, yes. You never met the version of Will that worked for Deloitte. They work big for accountants to death. Fun fact. It's actually incredibly unethical. But during busy season, when he was working, like, midnights and weekends... Yeah. Yes.
So, where were we in this movie? They have to sleep on the floor because the bed's broken. Their house is not. It's just riddled with holes. There's
full of holes.
There's a storm brewing. All of a sudden, like, it looked like they just unleashed a fire hose in their bedroom.
It sounded, because they turned the lights off, and he's like, "All right, let's not fight. Good night, honey."
It's impressive how they did that scene. How the lightning was the lighting. Mm-hmm. So every 2 seconds, he's up fixing part of the bed. And then the lights go out. And then lightning happens, and she's up fixing part of the bed. And then lights go out, then you hear lightning, and then all of a sudden, and they're soaked to the bone.
They're really good at dropping you in, and I honestly think movies like this are kind of missing these days. Movies that just drop you into the experience of, like, a young couple kind of going through a shitty time, but, like, still... like, not wanting to kill each other. We don't do enough of that anymore. No. I love that genre. They
tried this a few years ago with Drew Barrymore and Ben Stiller. It was called Duplex.
Yeah.
Doesn't hold a candle to this. It's just stupid comedy. This is stupid comedy with really well-made characters. Even every one of these characters is a character. Like
they're lovable.
There's like the Latino guy who like wears the shower cap because he doesn't want to mess up his hair at work. And
it's
like,
very like Greg Daniels, very, very Michael Schur, just Mike Schur. Just in love with the concept of how weird people are.
Yeah, and you need all of them for it to work. Because Tom Hanks is such like straight-laced guy. Shelley Long, she's in the orchestra at like the New York City Philharmonic playing the violin. So I mean, these are like people who had money at some point, and now they're just with the dregs of society. But the dregs are kind of nice in a weird way. Like a lot of them are. Like the bosses are scumbags. Like, you know.
They're just like nice people. Like growing up in a class above you didn't make you an asshole.
But meanwhile, they're wearing like leather daddy outfits and dressed like rock stars doing construction, which, not for nothing, I worked with a lot of construction workers. In the 80s, you kind of went to work like you were about to go to a Metallica show anyway.
For real?
Yeah, you wore jeans, boots,
That's why there are stereotypes
t-shirts
about sexy construction workers. I always wondered. I was like, where did this come from?
Oh, yeah. I used to work with a guy named Ray who was in a blues band, blues rock band called Rude Mood. It was awesome.
Sounds cool.
Yeah, it
Props,
was.
Ray. It's a good name.
Hey, Ray. So the rest of the movie is just this series of unfortunate events.
I love those books.
They like anything that could go wrong does go wrong.
Truly.
And it happens to both. It happens mostly to Tom Hanks because you're not going to beat up Shelley Long in every scene.
No, and she's at work a lot.
But when she has her bad days, it's like, oh my God.
Hers are worse.
How is she just not in a hotel right now?
More bad things happen to Tom Hanks, but worse things happen to Shelley Long.
Yeah, because she's also like getting hit on constantly.
She's a woman. She's
They're
very
watching her have
vulnerable.
sex
It's
with Tom
86.
Hanks through the window at one point because they're all on a scaffold outside. And he's just like, get back to work. And she's
Not
like,
even stop looking. Just get back to work.
And they're just like meandering away from the window like, yeah, okay. Let me finish my donut. So the movie is really well put together just in terms of the action. Like we were saying, the stunt work in this is so insane. That scaffold scene goes on.
It's so
for
very
like
well choreographed.
3 minutes. He falls out the window, falls into a thing of plaster, goes down a scaffold. They're getting their house finally in some amount of order, but things just keep steamrolling. They're running out of money.
Yeah.
And he doesn't know what to do, and she's like, well, I'll ask my ex for the money. And,
which is just a whole can of worms.
and she starts smoking again. She's a wreck, and the ex invites her, why don't you come to my house? And we'll
have a warm bath.
Warm dinner. I'll get you clean clothes. And she's like, fine.
She's like, I'm not sleeping with you. And
No.
he's like, all right, I get it. And I'm like, oh, is he actually being a good guy? How nice. And then
the next day, she wakes up in bed, hung over to shit. He's wearing just the bottom half of silk pajamas. She's wearing the top half of the silk pajamas. And she's like, what happened?
he kisses her, and you can see before she opens her eyes, she thinks it's Walter.
Yeah. So she's freaking out.
And he tells her that she slept with him.
Yeah. And she even says, she goes, what? I don't even remember dessert. Like, how could this have happened? She goes, you insisted and blah, blah, blah. And he's a real piece of shit about it.
And like,
I can see the rage in your eyes.
the movie doesn't take this seriously.
Again,
Today,
it's
it
the
would.
80s.
Ladies, that's rape. That's rape.
Yeah.
That is plain and simple. If you are not sober enough to remember, you sure as hell are not sober enough to consent. And anything other than a clear, sober yes is a no.
Yeah. So she ends up going home, and she's like, I gotta lie to him. I don't want to lose my husband. I love this man, and I'm not losing him. And she's
terrified.
She makes this. She gets all dolled up, makes a great dinner for them, and she has champagne. And he's like, "So where were you last night? I wasn't home, and I called and you didn't answer." And he's like, "Were you with him? You can tell me the truth."
And this is sweet. I believe him.
Super nice. He's like, "If you did something, I love you. I understand. Things happen. Just tell. It would hurt me more if you lied." And she lies a lot. She keeps it going for days.
I'm disappointed in her.
And
because if it were me, I think I would have not lied after the second reassurance. I would have been like, all right, you're being very nice. And now, I feel like it's just like this guilty feeling I get. Like, I can't keep lying to you when you're being so nice.
I'm the worst liar in the world.
Like, if you are being kind to me, if you're not being understanding of me, actually, I have no problem lying. If you're being an asshole, I'm like, okay, well, I have to compensate for what you are clearly lacking, so I'll lie my ass off. But if you're being a kind and understanding person to me, I physically, like, I can't do it.
Yeah, I've never been one to be able to hold up a ruse for very long. And I'll come clean so quick. Like, that's why when I was a kid, my mom would be like, just tell me the truth. And I'm like, I already did.
I think actually,
I broke that vase.
I think my parents may have. I think to a certain extent, it's like inborn. It's apparently actually a very neurodivergent thing to not be able to lie.
It's OCD, trust me. The guilt will eat you alive.
But my mom also, when we were little, if something happened and like we lied about it, she would make sure that we knew afterwards that our punishment was not so much because we did the thing. She's like, here's how I would have reacted if you had just told me that you ate that candy bar without asking. But because you lied, I have to punish you for lying to me because now, like, I'm upset that you weren't honest.
Yeah.
And so I think that everybody thinks that way, even though a lot of people probably don't.
Yeah.
And so I'm like,
But I mean, this is banging your ex-husband after you just had a fight with your present boyfriend. That's dark. So
yeah, back to this.
They're laying in bed later that night, and she tells him. She wakes him up,
like he
and
says
he looks at her,
to sleep.
and he looks at her, and he goes, "What's the matter, hon?" He's half asleep, and she's like, "I slept with him," and he kind of just like goes. He's like, "Okay," and
he's like, "I can't process this right now,"
and he goes back to sleep. And is this when he puts the log in the fire because they're fighting and the whole chimney just caves in on itself while it's still burning?
I think that was, he was asleep and he wakes back up and he yells, "You whore!" Which I'm not even that mad at him for. I'm mad at him for using the word, but whatever. It was 1986.
I ever hear Tom Hanks say that word.
It was 1986, and it's just like, oh, this is a perfect illustration of what, because you can think in a relationship that you're going to be so calm and rational about something when it happens, but your emotions are a bitch.
Yeah.
And even if you know that eventually you can get to a calm and rational place logically about it, you still have to feel those emotions first. And if you try to press them down and not be honest about them and just say, like, logically I should be fine with this, so like it's gonna come out with like, you whore.
And she picks the worst time to do it.
She really
when
does.
He's
when
kind of
he's
half asleep. He's at a shitty weight. He hadn't been home the night before because he was off trying to, I think, get more money.
She should have told him during dinner.
Yeah, and she chose. I mean, she's kind of a dirtbag at that whole scene. It really it bugged me. Like, you shouldn't have gone home with your husband. Mad or not, that your ex-husband, that's screwed up. You know something's gonna happen. The guy's a lech.
No,
you don't think so?
No, I think that she had no intention of fucking him, and as we learned later, she didn't.
No, she didn't.
So I think that she correctly assessed herself and her willpower and her ability to stay away from him. He tempted her with a hot bath, which she desperately look. Do not underestimate what you will do to fulfill basic human needs when you haven't had them fulfilled in a while.
You can't tell me there's not a Motel 6 somewhere that you could just an hour.
She has no money.
An hour.
Look,
how much does an hour in a motel cost?
I think that it is incredibly misogynistic to talk down to a woman in such a way to say, like, oh, for you to even do that, like, you underestimated yourself. I know better than you how much resistance you could have to this person sexually. Yeah. Like, he was being a nice guy. They still have to work together, so clearly they have to have a working relationship. She probably thinks, like, oh, this is nice. He's, like, extending the olive branch. I don't blame her for what she did at all. I do kind of blame her for lying, but literally, again, she thinks she was raped. So the PTSD and just like the mental shit that has got to be occurring there, I can't be too mad at her.
I think the thing is, like, back then, and I'm not defending us at all. Don't get it twisted. It's rape. But back then, especially in comedies, it was written as, oh, what did I do last night? And you're just like, I got drunk and slept with you? Holy shit, I don't even remember that, you know? And I think that's the way they wanted to play it more for comedy. And I think that's why it makes her look worse than she actually was.
Yeah, so like she looks like a dirtbag. Yeah, I understand that.
I think that's the problem. In the narrative of the story, she is the bad guy.
It was very clear that that's...
Especially because Tom Hanks is constantly like, just stay away from him. Stop. Enough. You work with him, that's it. Get it away from him. He's bad news. And she keeps like kind of like
yeah, okay, honey, and whatever, and and
I didn't read that as what was happening
I don't know.
at all. She can't stay away from him.
I know.
He's her boss.
I know. I just
He's jealous, and they should have an honest discussion
I just
about
figured
that.
you've been sucking it up this long, like dealing with this house. What's another What's another 2 weeks? Because everything's 2 weeks.
I feel bad for Tom Hanks.
4 months later.
The
2
movie,
weeks.
the problem with it was the movie tried to pitch it like there was a bad guy in the
Yeah.
situation, and truly the only bad guy was blonde dickhead.
Was yeah, Max.
Yeah.
and the thing, what I and in a fucked up way, they try to redeem Max at the end of the movie.
Yeah.
Because they decide they're just gonna get the house done, sell it, split the money, get their money back, and never see each other again. Tom Hanks and Shelley Long are done, and they're like, fine, whatever. And it's just this tumultuous relationship until the house is done. And
They split it in half.
And
They're
then
standing on two sides of the room.
Max
It's real
comes in
sad.
and he goes, we didn't sleep together. He goes, I lied. He's like, because for the first time ever, somebody told him no. Because I'm sure he was scorned left and right. He's a, handsome European who runs the Philharmonic. I mean, he's...
Gross.
But you get what I'm saying,
Yes.
Like, young girls are going to fall for that.
Yeah. She
Especially
did.
back then. Mm-hmm. And...
Because, like, to that mind, he looked very enlightened and not like a dick.
But there's a great scene, and I love it when Curly is talking to him. He's the GC, the guy who's running.
Oh, and it
And he
has
goes-
to be mentioned, all of the general contractors heard the tail end of their fight.
Yeah.
Where they divided the house up.
Because
everybody was watching.
This is like the soap opera for them during the day
and
while
it's
they're
like
working.
funny. There's a funny layer to it, but also they do a really good job of making you feel that sick feeling in the pit of your stomach that you get when you're fighting with your partner.
Yeah.
So like it didn't feel funny to me because I was empathizing too hard with them.
I can get that.
Because it was like I was like, oh, this sucks.
But
This
this-
sucks.
but-
This sucks. Nobody wants this to be happening, including the people arguing.
But he does this great moment where he's like, well, folks, the house is all done. It looks great. And Tommy's like, you really did a hell of a job. Like, he didn't
It
think
looks
this
nice.
this dirtbag was going to... And the house is gorgeous.
These people actually are
even
the
did
nightmare / dream that millennials and Gen Z are having now, which is like bought a $200,000 house in 1986. Now it's worth like $3 million. That is what is going to happen to them with this house.
And Curly goes, so who wants the key? And he goes, I'll just put it on the banister.
He knows.
And he's watched them like...
He heard the fight.
You
and he
love
knows.
it. He gives them both this subtle grin of like, you're gonna be okay. And it is one of the most touching moments in the movie. Like I was
These
like,
guys are pulling scams, but like they're not scams that in the long run are actually going to fuck these people up.
no,
that much.
and it is such a sweet scene, and I didn't expect it from that character.
No.
Because you just think he's this like...
He's just kind of like a dirtbag.
Yeah, you just think he's this ham and egger who comes to work every day.
Sorry, what does that mean?
Ham and egger means
Yeah.
like, you eat like breakfast sandwiches and just go to work and drink your coffee, and it means like a guy who just you're a working man.
Okay.
Like, because you just go get yourself a ham, egg, and cheese and on a roll
I would
and you
kill
get
for
it done.
egg and cheese right now.
I bet you would.
Or a pork roll, egg and cheese.
But yeah, like I believe that's what the term ham and egger means. It means like a
Okay.
guy who just picks up a sandwich, goes to work, and gets his day started.
Yeah.
I did it for 20 something years, being an electrician, and he really kind of fixes their because they look at each other and they have this.
And they might have
moment.
had the moment anyway, but
not. They wouldn't have realized it as quickly.
yeah.
And they end up keeping the house, and it's gorgeous, and they're happy.
Because they have this such sweet moment where they're going up the stairs and like they think it's the end and he's going to go pack and he's like, you slept with him and I don't care.
Yeah.
But we skipped over this part. It's important.
Okay.
Where he's like, he says, I didn't sleep with you. And she's like, no, I'm still leaving because he couldn't forgive me and I can't forgive him for that.
Yeah.
Which is, I get. It's like it seemed like a stupid point back then probably, but it's like no, she's right because he couldn't forgive her for what we now know is being raped. And
Yeah.
like, I know he doesn't understand that, but I know in her heart she does.
Yeah. I mean, well, bringing the room down.
Sorry, it's just the end of the movie for me was just like, oh, none of this should be funny.
Yeah.
None of this should be funny. Which I think it's good that I have those alarm bells in my head.
I'm-
I still loved the movie.
I'm waiting to watch an episode of Cheers with You where Sam and Diane literally have a slap fight. They beat the crap out of each other and end up making out.
That kind of sounds funny.
And
I'd love to see your reaction to something like that because they're real. Like Ted Danson and Shelley Long are wailing on each other.
I am almost willing to forgive it in that context because, like, I don't know what.
Have you ever heard the term of Sam and Diane?
Oh yeah,
that's where it comes from.
I know that.
Oh, okay.
I'm willing to forgive that because I understand that is like a relationship of passion that is being suppressed. So that A, that's gonna manifest itself in weird ways. B, I don't know what their kinks are.
Well, Sam he gets down a lot. Like he literally has a black book that looks like a phone book.
The slap fight was foreplay. I'm predicting it now.
Probably, yeah. If I remember right.
Yeah.
So back to Money Pit.
She says, I can't forgive him because he couldn't forgive me. But then on the stairs, he's like, you slept with him and I don't care. Which is just... he got over it.
It's a great moment. But it just goes to prove, had you just told him, he probably would have taken it so much better than you dragged it out.
If they had talked about it at dinner, he probably would have been able... They would have still fought, but he would have been mentally prepared. He would have been able to take the more time to process it. They would have had the fight before they went to bed, and it would have been resolved.
If she came home shaken...
That's the other thing. Like and this is why teaching women to mask and teaching people to mask their emotions in general is also a problem because, like,
it's dangerous.
People knowing your emotional state is legitimately like an important consideration when they speak to you. Yeah. It's
because they don't know what you're going through.
No,
and if you don't tell them, you can't get mad at them.
And like women were taught to act like this because it's like, well, this was your fault. And if it's so good that we're more open.
And
about
I'm
these
not
things
saying
these days.
that what happened to her was her fault. I'm saying you made a minorly bad choice that led to a much bigger problem.
And the minorly bad choice was because of the way it was viewed at the time.
It was out of desperation. Exactly. She just needed a moment away from the hellhole that she was living in.
And like also like she probably wasn't ready to talk about it.
No.
Yes.
I just don't want you to think I'm some dirtbag.
No, nowhere did I expect that to be. No.
Okay, good.
I felt it needed to be said.
Yeah. No, I get it. And you also, you again, the whole point of the show is we look at things differently. I look at things from an older perspective where I've seen this movie and I never thought of it.
You can kind of time travel when you watch it.
Never popped in my head. If you said Money Pit, there's a rape scene. No, I never would have guessed that.
There's no rape scene.
There's no rape scene.
Implied rape.
Implied. I never would have, that wouldn't have crossed my mind. It would have been more, no, she got drunk and made a bad decision.
Yeah.
You know, that's how I looked at it. Where you were like, no, he got her drunk and banged her. And he's a piece of shit. Which, yeah he kind of is. Because he woke up looking shiny as a penny. And she's hung over to hell. You know?
I hated that guy. I did not like that at the end she was just able to forgive him. Like, if he told me that I had never slept with him and he had done that and he had ruined my relationship, I would have punched him in the face.
Oh, I would have hired a couple of those. I would have hired a couple of those construction workers. The Body by Jake would have been coming back to beat the hell out of him.
There wouldn't even have been time. It would have been like I know this about myself. It would have been a flash of rage, and I would have just punched him in the face.
Yeah.
Before I knew what was happening, it would have been like Ben in that episode of Parks and Rec.
So that's pretty much the movie,
it was
except
lovely.
for the capper at the end. The last scene, we go back to Brazil.
Oh my God, yes!
And you see Tom Hanks' dad, his new bride, and there's Estelle selling him another mansion with the German pool boy. And so they've been pulling this shit all over the place. And that's kind of hilarious that the dad got his comeuppance.
It is funny.
And kind of a funny sequel setup if they ever did like sequels like that back in the day.
They could have. It was, yeah.
It didn't need it. But
no.
it was a great kind of FU to this character who totally screws over his son just to like marry a younger woman.
Yeah.
And you know.
Oh boy.
So that's the Money Pit.
It sure was.
I'll rate this one first. This is gonna be a high bar for me. I'm going with a 10. I love this movie. I almost want to give it an 11. It's not perfect, but it's so well done. The jokes land. I mean, I watched this with Mindy, and she was cackling, literally like crying, laughing at one point.
I want to show this to Will
with that raccoon scene.
He is going to die. He hates raccoons. He's terrified of them. And he's like, rodents shouldn't have fingers.
And another scene we didn't even talk about was the rug, where he goes to the floor. I forgot. How did we forget about the fucking rug?
There's an episode of Avatar where that happens to Sokka.
Oh, yes. So Tom Hanks is like just standing there counting money to see if he has enough cash for like dinner or something. And the rug is in a hole in the floor.
He has to pay the permit man.
That's
He's coming
right.
back at a very specific time.
The permit guy was going to show up. He falls to the floor and he's stuck there and he can't move. He can't breathe.
He can't yell.
He
His
can't
chest is
scream.
constricted.
Loses the permits. And Shelley Long comes back like 7 hours later.
And he said he would pick her up at the train station
And he
she's
couldn't-
looking for him.
And she's like, "Where are you? I'm in the den. I was just in the den.
I promise you, I am in the den.
I'm in the floor behind the red chair."
Her in the corner, and she just...
And she just laughs at him, and then he falls through the floor again and wrecks.
His
You know what?
bones are done when he's older.
You know what? I'm giving it an 11 now. That's the second scene that I was like, I can't, just for forgetting to talk about that scene, it gets an 11 now. I love this movie. I've always loved this movie. I saw it when I was a kid, and I laughed my ass off then, and I know the jokes are coming, and I'm still laughing. I'm still laughing just as hard as the first time I saw it. What are you giving this movie, Mel?
This is a 10.
Oh, there you go.
Like, I could not suppress my anger at how that one scene was handled.
So you're taking a point
So
off
it doesn't get a perfect 11 rewatch forever.
the pseudo-sexual assault.
Yes, because also like Sal is just completely like that's treated like it's no big deal, and like he literally unwanted
Joe Mantegna.
touching is not okay ever.
Yeah, but Hanks handles it. Hanks doesn't let him get away with that
Yes,
shit.
but anyway,
It still gives him $5,000, but whatever.
10. I love this movie. I'm going to show this movie to people who have not seen it. Cute Hanks, it did such a good job. This is what really tips it for me. It does such a good job of explaining exactly the feeling of being a young couple in just a screwed and shitty situation. And you're just like, oh shit, we're the adults now. We have to figure out how to deal with this.
I'm so happy.
Okay.
I'm so happy you like this movie. Because if you didn't like this movie, I was going to be very upset.
No, I love this movie.
So next week on the show, it's your turn. What do you got for me, Mel?
It is because we just watched Pretty in Pink with TV's Travis. Again, check that out. There are links on our Twitter page.
Yeah.
In abundance. We are going to watch A Cinderella Story with Hilary Duff. Because there were a lot, I think it lifted some things directly from Pretty in Pink and then changed them and made them a little better. So we can kind of talk about both.
And who's the guy in that?
I don't remember.
Was he the One Tree Hill dude?
Oh,
the OC?
the best friend. Yes, One Tree Hill. Chad Michael Murray. I thought you were talking about the best friend.
No.
Yes, Chad Michael Murray.
I just remember, all I know about this movie, I've seen the poster. She's wearing like a prom dress with sneakers. And she's kind of getting a piggyback ride from this guy.
Yeah.
That's all I know of this movie.
It's
so
cute.
I'm going in blind.
This is easily one of my top 5 favorite movies. I honestly, for pure rewatchability, prefer it to Legally Blonde.
Oh my God.
Yes.
That's bold.
I love this movie.
All right.
I also loved Hilary Duff when I was little.
Oh, yeah.
We'll talk about that more next time.
So that's been Made You Watch a Podcast for this week, folks.
And Money Pit.
And the Money Pit. And I've been Adam Mock.
I have been Melanie Weir.
And we made you watch
a podcast.
See you next time. And I don't know if you know this, but my cohorts and I here at Enstarz have been given the ultimatum of getting 5,000 subscribers on our YouTube channel in a month. An impossible task, many think, and we even do. So we decided to make a web series about it and spoof the real life that we're living every day at work. So do us a favor. Help us out here. We're struggling writers who became content creators. Who knew? So do us a favor. Hit like, hit subscribe, hit notify. Every week, a new episode of our web series, Please Help, will be coming out. It's with myself, Jessica Chen, Melanie Weir, Carly Postina. You've seen us all at some point on the channel. You've read our work, and we would really appreciate if you just smash the hell out of that subscribe button. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell your grandma, set her up for an account. She's not going to know. You know, just say, Grandma, I'm just going to sign you up for something. You never have to check it again. We want subscribers. We need subscribers. We want to keep our jobs. So if you could do that for us, we'd love you for it. So until next time, I'm Adam Mock. Please subscribe.